Because just because you get the entitlement or you have the entitlement and the benefit does not mean that you still qualify for a home. So regardless if you use the VA or not, which is the choice of all veterans, you still need to know where you stand financially in terms of purchasing your home. And when it comes time to selling your home and you've already used your VA benefits, you need to make sure that you know the steps to purchase the next house so that you can use your VA benefits again, because there are some rules in terms of whether or not you can keep your existing VA home and purchase another one and still have two homes. That's not the case in all situations. So you definitely need to speak with a professional so that you know what your options are.
You're listening to the Real Estate Proverbs Podcast with host Kevin Jefferson. This is the #1 podcast for African American real estate professionals who are doing extraordinary things. It's time to tune in. And now, your host, the People's Lender, Kevin Jefferson.
Welcome to Real Estate Proverbs Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson. Today we have a special guest by Miss Nyala Allen. Good afternoon, Nyala.
Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm doing wonderful.
That's awesome. Awesome. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I am Nyala Allen. I am a real estate entrepreneur, aka realtor. I am licensed with Keller Williams Atlanta Partners. My actual company underneath Keller Williams is High Yield Realty Services, LLC. And that's a little bit of who I am. I am a realtor here in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Awesome. So let's kind of dig into it. How did you get into real estate?
How did I get into real estate? Well, I got into it by making my first purchase when I was 24. I was a single mom, and my exposure to it is actually from my mom. When I was 9, she purchased her first home, which happened to be in Riverdale, Georgia. And she was just one of those independent women that decided that she wanted to own her own properties and be independent. And so she didn't believe in having apartments, and she purchased one of her first homes when I was 9. But my first experience and introductory into the real estate industry is at age 24 when I purchased my first home. And I think that was back in 2002, I believe. So I guess I'm telling my age. And so I used my mom's realtor. She took me out to see about 3 or 4 homes, and I picked the first one. Even though I looked at 4 of them, I picked the first one, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I think I could help other people, through this process and see that it's done. A lot of people my age were renting. Of course, I was probably the youngest person with a child, so that was my motivation. But that's pretty much my first introduction into real estate.
Okay. So when you purchased your first home, what were you doing at the time?
I was working full-time at IBM. I was also in the Army Reserves. So I had been with IBM, I would say 6 months in. And some of my coworkers thought I was crazy because they didn't know, the economy we're not sure if this will be a good time to purchase, or, there's so many things that can happen. But I was working as a contract administrator for Lotus division within IBM. And I worked the second and third shift because we handled support of the Asian Pacific region. And like I said, I was a reservist. So 1 weekend a month, 2 weekends out the year, I was a soldier. So that's pretty much my employment at that time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you. My honor.
So since you mentioned that you're a reservist and you served our country, 2 weekends out of the year, tell us about your passion in real estate now.
Well, now my passion in real estate is to educate, encourage, and empower individuals to build a legacy through real estate. Whether that's purchasing their first home or selling their first home and buying their next home, or if they're looking to get into real estate as new agents, however that looks for them in terms of real estate and building a legacy for their family, that's my true passion. I'm also, in terms of, I guess, the niche market, so to speak, I'm passionate about helping veterans, educating my colleagues as well as the public about VA home loans and how it can be used in kind of demystifying some of the untruths, so to speak, that are out there, in hopes that people would look at this loan product as a great tool to help, I guess, further my passion of empowering people to purchase real estate. So that's just a little bit about my passion.
Gotcha. So in terms of the VA home loan, the veterans purchasing homes, is there some type of special benefit they receive or for purchasing?
No.
Or actually benefit from being in the military and some type of benefit or bonus that they receive for purchasing a home?
So the VA home loan was actually created out of the GI Bill. Roosevelt signed the bill back in 1944. I hope I got my presidents right. But 1944, he signed the GI Bill to allow, it's one of the benefits within that GI Bill package that he signed off that allows veterans, those who serve, and I think at the time they had to be wartime, but it's developed to where today, if you serve in National Guard, reservists, or active duty, if you've retired or just served your term and have a DD-214, you're entitled to this home loan, which, as you know, as a great mortgage person, is 100% financing, and it has no PMI. So it is a huge benefit to veterans and military personnel to purchase a home in today's market, or any market for that matter. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what's the process for the veteran to get started on that journey?
Well, the process is to contact VA or their, it just depends. Let me back up and say it depends, because if they're on active duty, they may have to contact their HR person or the S1. If they're retired or veteran, they can go directly to va.gov or access their e-benefits to submit a request to get their certificate of eligibility. And if they're a reservist or National Guard, they may also need to contact their S1 or just the process of going to va.gov and starting the process of getting a certificate of eligibility. So that would be the first step.
Gotcha. Cool. So would the VA be able to tell them if they're even eligible, like whether they had enough time in?
So yes, the VA helps them with their eligibility to say they can use their VA home loan. The next step, or a part B to that, to the first step, would be to contact a mortgage lender or contact me I'm B or C, and then I can put I can put them in contact with a lender such as yourself, to make sure that they meet the loan qualification for that VA home.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
So what created the passion or the wanting to focus on this niche, in particular veterans?
Well, I would say a number of things. One, I am a veteran. It is a loan product that I have used myself, and it's part of my mission of helping people build their legacy through real estate is so that they can increase their equity or assets and just wealth overall. And it's a great product that allows them to do that, especially with the no PMI. But most importantly, in November of last year, my mom, who I mentioned exposed me to owning a home, and she, in November, did an appraisal on her particular home, and the appraiser, unfortunately, the report came back 600 square feet less than her home, and the comps didn't match her specific home. And in looking at that and analyzing it, what I didn't mention earlier is that my mom also served. She's also a veteran. She's served in the Army for 9 years and got out as a captain. So,
oh wow,
looking at all of that, I was like, something's not right here. Where is it in terms of the value and knowing that she served? I guess it just fueled the passion for me to be more of an advocate for the veteran community. I think I'm unique in the way that I understand how a veteran thinks. I know some of the lingo or the language, right? So I can connect in that way. And at the same time, I understand the real estate industry and some of the verbiage. So after my mom had that appraisal, I was able to guide her through the process of getting that appraisal reevaluated, or her home reevaluated. And she was able to come up $100,000. So now, starting in 2021, that's like my primary mission, right? is to make sure that people are aware of this product and kind of know the truth about the values of the home, or the benefit of this product to everybody, buyers,
right,
sellers, and our industry.
right. So in terms of the appraisal piece, what was it that you did to increase the value on the reevaluation, reinspection or whatever?
Right. So I told her to go ahead and contact the lender and ask for the notice of value, and ask for a reevaluation. I also shared with her comps that were similar to her home. And then, fortunately, she had a previous appraisal like the year prior. So she was able to submit that along with the comps. And then I gave her some verbiage. What I did was I contacted another appraiser that I know. And I gave her the verbiage to go back to the bank and say, hey, we need to look at these comps again. And she was able to get that value back in her home.
Wow. So how long was that process? Like, how long did it take for you guys to go through the initial, I guess, after you got the valuation and came in lower than expected? How long did it take to get the comps and the appraiser to come back out, or to reevaluate the value?
I would say it was probably within 2 weeks, 2 weeks to tops. I think what was important is that she had the comps and she had the verbiage. Because a lot of times when things like that happen, the general public are in their emotions, right? They don't know what to say, and she was more upset, and rightfully so. And so I think that time frame allowed them to see that, oh, she may know exactly what she's talking about. Let's go back and tell this appraiser, hey, we have this information, can you verify or whatever. And he went back out. He actually had to come to the house because I think at the time it was during COVID. He may have done a desktop appraisal.
Oh.
And hadn't really looked at the house. But if he had just driven by, he would have known that, he had missed square footage on her home. So it was about 2 weeks to answer your question.
Okay, cool. So what are a few things that you would advise a veteran to do if they want to begin the home buying process?
Veterans, call me.
That's it? Call
Yeah, that's the first thing. And then everything else after that, I take care of. No.
Gotcha.
The very first thing is look at your credit. Look at your financing. Make sure that you are paying your bills on time. And definitely get that certificate of eligibility. Know that when you get the certificate of eligibility, there will be an amount on there, but that's not the amount that you're approved for, right? So the next thing would be to talk with a professional, whether it's myself, Kevin, or, someone that's versed in real estate, has some deals under their belt and could evaluate, well, as a realtor, I'll refer you to a lender. But I'll have conversations with you about what may be on your credit and how maybe your utilization of credit could affect you. And then I can refer you over to a lender. And at that point, we could develop a plan if you're not ready today for you to purchase a home. So those would be the steps. I don't know how many things I gave you, but those would be the steps and advice that I give to all veterans. Because just because you get the entitlement or you have the entitlement and the benefit does not mean that you still qualify for a home. So regardless if you use the VA or not, which is the choice of all veterans, you still need to know where you stand financially in terms of purchasing your home. And when it comes time to selling your home and you've already used your VA benefits, you need to make sure that you know the steps to purchase the next house so that you can use your VA benefits again, because there are some rules in terms of whether or not you can keep your existing VA home and purchase another one and still have two homes. That's not the case in all situations. So you definitely need to speak with a professional so that you know what your options are.
Got you. What states are you licensed in?
Georgia. So this information is based on Georgia. Oh, I haven't given anything specific. It's general, the information that I've given.
Right.
But I am licensed in Georgia. And the VA home loan is a federal program, and it can be used for people who are overseas. I am licensed in Georgia. However, I have real estate professionals and partners throughout the world. So let me know.
Got you, for sure. And so your real estate journey, I want to dig into that.
Dig.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I wish I had the AC on in here. Go ahead.
So at what you purchased your first home at 24.
Yeah.
How old were you when you actually got your license?
28.
28. What were you doing at the time?
I had gotten married, and IBM was it wasn't satisfying. It wasn't satisfying. I was at a desk. I was good at what I did. But I remember going through the process of purchasing my first home, and I was like, I'm gonna get licensed. I'm gonna get licensed. And I guess 2005, I was pregnant with my second child, Kaylee, aka Admin, as you know her. And during my maternity leave, I took the license for real estate course. I don't know how I stumbled on it. I was just like, this might be the opportunity for me to go through and get my license because I've always wanted to do it. And during that maternity break, I actually studied for the course. I was at it was Metro Brokers at the time. They had a school, and I went through their course during maternity leave and got my license. And so I don't know if I answered your question, but
You did. How old you were and how you got started.
Yeah.
So in 2005, how was the market?
Well, I would say I was pregnant in 2005, but got licensed in 2006. And so that was the time that everybody says, oh yeah, the market was the bomb. It was booming and deals were going left and right. I can't say that for myself. I was still working. So after maternity leave, I went back to work and I was doing it part-time. And I remember selling a house to a lady in Riverdale. She bought that house for, it had to be like $50,000 at that time, right? It was, no, that's not true. Because I was like, probably like in the 80s. $80,000 was like my price point back then. And so I wasn't a top producer when I first came into the business. You know, I stumbled upon her somewhere and we started looking at houses, got her approved, and she purchased that house. I wonder, I wish I kept in contact because I wonder where she is now. That house is probably worth at least $200,000. So, but I just had like onesies and twosies. My mom had a couple of more properties. I hope she's okay with me sharing this, but anyway, she had a couple more properties. So I was able to help her list them to get them rented out. So I did some property management assistance and checking for tenant backgrounds and things of that nature. So the market was hot, but I was in my own little world, maintaining, going to work and everything. In 2007, late 2007, the economy shifted. IBM said, it's time for you to look for something else. And I attempted to do real estate full time in like 2008, 2009 frame. Time frame. And it was a challenge. I didn't have the right mentorship at that time. I didn't know to try different brokerages or go different places. So I finished out my military career so that my husband and I could keep afloat and kind of do things that we needed to do, like finish our degrees and do some different things. So that was my beginning start. And then after we got our degrees, did what we needed to do, went to public accounting firms. I retired from the military. We transferred back to Georgia. And I got relicensed. I had let my license lapse. So 2017, I got my license again and I'm here today. I think I had 7 transactions my first year. Last year was a good year for me where I doubled or increased my listing side of things 300%. And I'm looking forward to having a phenomenal year this year. So that's I think I gave you a whole bunch. I gave you more than what you asked me for.
Nah, you did. You're fine. You're fine. So what was it about the market in 2008 and 9 that I guess kind of made you leave the industry?
That's a very good question. Like I said, I don't think I had the right support. And most importantly, I didn't know to ask the right questions or know what questions to ask. And it can be challenging when, let me say that my husband and I were both in sales at that time. So he was insurance sales and I was real estate sales. And so it can be challenging juggling all of that, maintaining. So I just looked at it, well, maybe this wasn't for me. And I get chills just thinking about that now. Like, maybe this isn't for me, because now that I'm here, I know what it is to help other people through this process. I think it was just a challenge. That was a tough market. You had a lot of REO properties. I attempted to get on with some banks and didn't have enough credentials, so to speak, to get in that type of market. So it was sink or swim or catch the boat that was coming by. And the military was like, hey, we got this boat. So I hopped on that boat. And when I was gone, that boat took me to Pennsylvania. When I was in Pennsylvania, I remember this lady calling me, probably about 10 months after I had been gone. And I helped her get into a lease purchase program, her and her family. And she said, Nyala, I have some questions. We're ready to purchase. This is when you're like, oh God, I'm ready to purchase. And I said, well, Ms. Jackson, Casey and I had took this military duty and we're going to be gone for a while. And, I opted to step out of the business. She said, man, you were my real estate agent. And when she said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I leave? But, not knowing, you just don't know what you don't know. And so I don't know if that answers the question about what made me leave the industry, but it was like either sink, swim, or get on the boat. And the military offered a boat or a life raft for us at that time. So I had to take it. Yeah.
So where you are today and knowing what you know, if you could go back and be in that same position back then, how would you navigate through it? Would it be the same outcome or?
You know what? That outcome will be beautiful right now, because 2020 is they say 2020 is always hindsight, where you know better. It's funny because I used to go to my office and there was a Keller Williams that was new in the area office, and I drive by and be like, where is that? And this is not a promotion for KW, but I would drive by that office and say, hey, that's a KW office. It's red, it stands out, it pops, it feels like it was energy. I never went over there to explore my options, right? So hindsight being 2020, I would have looked into that office to see, hey, what do I need to do to be here? And made that leap in terms of doing whatever it took to stay in the industry, because it did not feel good. I tell you what, it did not feel good having that call 10 months later from Ms. Jackson. And she was like, your husband was my insurance guy and you were my real estate agent. And now I don't have anybody. And when she said that, it just hit me like, oh, I meant something to somebody,
Right.
So I definitely would have navigated it differently and my business would be on fire. it would have been on fire. So it's okay. I'm here now. It's
And your
still
business is on fire.
fire.
So,
Yeah.
so, um, so yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, showing your vulnerability, I
I'm good
mean,
at
in
that.
terms of the industry, because a lot of times we see the glitz and the glam of the real estate industry, but we don't really get an opportunity to see stories or hear stories such as yours, where you were in at the height of the market, you didn't have the success that you thought you wanted to have, and then you did what was best for your family at the time, not knowing the outcome, and you exited the market only to be reached by somebody you touched, and it gave you that inkling to say, okay, maybe I did make a difference. I think a lot of times we get caught up in, myself included, so I'm talking to me, a lot of times we get caught up in seeing other people's successes, as well as not being where we want to be, so we don't think we're successful. But then there was another Nyala somewhere saying, oh, she's killing it, and you like, oh, I'm doing a horrible job. So I just think that sometimes we just have to we have to learn to run our own race. And,
Absolutely.
we are affecting people and changing lives. And we can only do it one person at a time, one house at a time. So that to me makes it means a lot. And now, I don't know if you still talk to Miss Jackson, but you need to reach out to her. See.
My mindset at that time was just, it's survival. It's, there's one thing to be in survival mode, and then it's another thing to say, okay, I'm doing good and I can thrive at this point. And I just wasn't there. So I say that to say, I hope Miss Jackson sees me and feels free to reach out to me, because I thought I was never going to come back into real estate. I really thought that I was going to finish out my military career and I was going to go on to different things. I didn't even think past that. So I'm in a different space where I do connect with my clients. I do stay in contact with them. So I'm going to see if I can find Miss Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find her.
We'll have a part 2 and see if you touch bases with Miss Jackson. It's gonna be an update. I'm gonna add an update on them. So now that you're here, what is your your thought process, or not just thought process? What do you think of the market that we're in right now?
It's, I've asked agents that have been in 20 plus years, what do they think about this market? And they said, this is something we've never seen before. And so I'm bound to believe it, because this is something I never thought would happen, where we would have an inventory shortage and houses would be selling in hours, and buyers fighting over, going $20,000 above list price. And it's unique. And we were in a multiple offer situation, I guess, in some spaces in 2018 and 2019. However, COVID kind of magnified that, I think, in terms of some people have decided not to move in the time and space that they thought they would. I would say at least 5 of the people that I thought were going to sell this year, that would have been in my goal for this year, they have decided, right now is not the time. So I think prices are here to stay for at least a couple of years. And if anything after that point, it would probably be more of a leveling out, especially in the Atlanta market, because our prices compared to, say, New York, California, some places in Florida or Miami, we're still affordable, so to speak. So I'm experiencing where people are coming from Arizona, Texas, putting in full price offers at 300,000 cash, So in terms of like the Atlanta market, I think we just need to brace ourselves. Buyers need to be more financially sound in terms of saving, being prepared to put more money down, maybe contact Congress, see if they can loosen some things up. But that's my perspective of the market. We're currently in inflation, which we haven't seen in a while, per remarks of Dave Ramsey. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
What are your thoughts?
I think that we're in a totally, I just had this conversation with an agent. I think we're in a totally different market than we were in 2006. So I remember being an agent in 2006 saying, and I didn't have kids at the time, nor was I married. And I was like, I don't know if my kids will ever be able to buy a house unless I set them up, because the market was climbing. I've always followed real estate, but I wasn't a realtor at the time. So 2007, you start seeing a change in the market. 2008, it hit the fan. So at that point, we were navigating through. Now we hear people discussing a crash or a bunch of foreclosures, right? Mm-hmm. The difference, and this is where the agent and I were talking, the difference is we have no inventory.
Yeah.
So in 2008, 2009, there was a ton of new construction houses on the market nationwide. And I remember being in Delaware hearing, man, you could get a new construction house in Atlanta finished for like $100,000 or less. And we wasn't talking about 1,000 square feet. We were talking about 2,000 and 3,000 square feet because the builders needed to get rid of the inventory. So two different markets. That market happened because of economics. This one is because, we're still, it's health, but it's increasing. So I think we've got a while before we see anything. Now, the caveat to that is, let's say we do see a bunch of foreclosures or people start losing their homes. I don't think we'll see it. I'm going to tell you why. So
they're going to keep signing those bills, but go ahead.
Not necessarily. No. Well, that's possible, right?
Okay.
So at the end of the Great Recession, hedge funds began to gobble up tons of non-performing assets, right? So now those same hedge funds still have those bank relationships. How I know is because I went from listing short sales to REOs, and at the end of my time as a as a realtor, I was listing properties that were being rehabbed by hedge funds. A lot of hedge funds were buying properties, and they are now. You as an agent and your buyer and our buyers are competing with hedge funds buying properties, because I know people who have hedge funds as clients that they're putting in offers for. So while people are waiting to see if the bubble busts and we can get houses for penny on the dollar, I don't think we'll ever see them, because the hedge funds have a lot more money than us and they will gobble them up. So we will see some sort of correction. I agree with you that it'll level out, and I'm not an economist, and I just know what I've seen over 17 years. I think that we'll see a change, but I don't think we'll see nowhere near what we saw, in 2008, 2009. But I never thought nothing could get crazier than 2006 in terms of home prices. So, now it's just, it's bananas. It's great time for sellers to make some money. Great time for buyers in terms of interest rates.
Yep.
But finding a house is a ton of work. It's a ton of work. But I think we're in a good market. It helps, the fact that we're in the metro Atlanta area. It helps dramatically. You know, I think they said the census from 2010 to 2020, Metro Atlanta gained 1 million more people in 10 years. That's the whole state I came from. That's the whole state of Delaware. I don't even think Delaware has 1 million people. So I think we're in a great market. I think it's a great time to purchase and to sell. The bad part is, and we've been talking about it for years, is the affordable housing.
Yep.
The affordable housing.
Yeah.
The affordable housing and the housing affordability, meaning now, one big thing that I saw was student loans having an effect on people's ability to buy. Not that they couldn't afford the house, it was the payment that they had to use. Now that has changed, two things are going to happen. It's going to bring in more buyers, which I'm talking to at least 3 to 4 people a day that couldn't qualify. And now we're trying to figure out how to get them there or what they qualify for. But it should also open up for sellers, because there were sellers who purchased and then they went to school or took Parent Plus loans for their kids, and they had to use that student loan calculation. So that should help bring up more inventory, but bringing more inventory also still brings more buyers.
Yep.
Hopefully I answered your question.
You did, and that's a great perspective. It's funny, I posted on social media today about Tyler Perry buying out the rest of the Fort McPherson, or not rest of, some of the remaining balance. He's doing a joint venture with TD Jakes, and they're supposed to bring in affordable housing with that development. So I'm excited to see what will come of that and what affordability will look like in about 2 or 3 years, because the material costs are increasing. So yeah, it's a cycle. So
let me ask you a question, and I know, did you know how Lake Lanier got here?
I'm sad to say that I just recently found that out this year.
I found out last night.
It hit you like a ton of bricks, didn't it?
Yeah, my wife's away on a girls' trip, and I had to call her. I was like, what? Like, I never knew. So while I was shocked, I'm not surprised.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not surprised.
What made you think of that?
What we just said? Just because we were talking about affordability of housing.
Yeah.
The affordability of housing and housing affordability, and just thinking about all the generations of people who could be in a better position, but they continue to wipe out our communities. So that further puts us behind. So we hear about Black Wall Street 100 years ago. We find out about it 5 years ago, right? And then I'm here around the corner from Lake Lanier for 6 years, and I just find out last night how Lake Lanier got here. I had heard about Central Park, so I had heard portions of that before. I didn't know about Lake Martin in Alabama, and I meant to ask my wife because she grew up around that area. So Lake Martin, it's just disgusting, man. It sucks. Yeah. It so sucks.
And that's why I think our position is so vital. I guess in looking at the whole picture of my mom, single African-American woman, she didn't have anybody to help her acquire anything, right? She put an addition on to this house out of her own blood, sweat, and tears. She's Black and she's a veteran. So all of those things is just like, it reaffirms to me us being in this industry. It reaffirms to me the impact that we have on our community, whether we work with those that look like us or not. Because until we can see each other in different spaces and different lights, we will continue to have the Lake Lanier's and the St. Martin. You said St. Martin, right?
Lake Martin. Lake
Martin.
Lake
Lake
Martin,
Martin, Alabama, and the Black Wall Streets. So yeah, I heard about it. I learned about Lake Lanier a couple of years ago, and I've been on that lake. I've been on that lake. So yeah.
How'd you hear?
I don't remember. I just remember being in awe. I was like, what? They said, yeah, we don't go. I had to be in a real estate setting with colleagues. And they said, yeah, I don't go to Lake Lanier. They flooded the city. And I was like, what do you mean they flooded the city? Like, I don't get it. And they were saying that, I guess they were referencing how a lot of people die on that lake because they go out and they drink and the boating, and they have boating accidents. It's like a high number of accidents out there. And they said, because there's a city down there pulling people. I said, what are you talking about? He said, there are houses at the bottom of the lake. And then I guess at one point when the lake started because we had a drought in Georgia a few years back, and they started to see the tips of the houses.
Oh, wow.
Because the water levels was so low and people were starting to move out. But I can't remember the instance, but I just remember being like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense. But to your point, I wasn't surprised. I don't get surprised at hearing that news anymore. I get surprised when people are shocked or like in disbelief that it happens, so yeah. Relax, relate, release. It's okay.
I was I was taken back. Like I never thought, like I just figured it was a man-made lake, because I'm not from here, so I just thought it was a man-made lake. And I never wondered like why or how, you know what I mean? So now I'm going through my mind and I'm like, okay, I wonder about this lake or that lake. There's a ton. I'm gonna send you the video.
Okay.
There's a lot of places throughout the United States that were lakes. Same thing happened. So so the name of the town was called Oscarville, Georgia. Had about 1,000 people, predominantly African American. It was a thriving community. Two guys supposedly raped the young lady, and they were tried and executed all in the same day. So they were killed in the same day. A mob of people went in to Oscarville in like 1912 and began to run out African Americans or kill them. And by 1920, the town was empty. And they said, oh, I'm paraphrasing, we need a lake. And they flooded the town. So the same thing that you heard, I heard the town is still there. Which, man, so when I look at it and I think about it, a lot of generations of wealth just literally washed away. Just washed away. Which, this business is tough. It's tough and it's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let anybody else ever let you think that it's not, right?
Right.
But when I heard that story last night, it fueled something in me. Like, okay, let's get it. Like, we know better now. I don't think the same thing. They can try, but I'm not sure if they'll succeed now. You know what I mean? And I think we need to keep pushing. That's why African American home ownership is so much needed. And we're still in the economy that we're in and in the times that we're in with success, we're still behind what we were 50 years ago in terms of home ownership. So like, that's why I constantly push and educate. That's the whole premise of this platform, because I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. And having yourself on here as a guest to tell your story is going to resonate with a veteran, somebody working in HR, somebody working in general, a teacher, someone who wants to be an agent, but they just don't know how. Can I do it and still work my job? Can I do it and I've got 2 young kids? Can I do it? I've got a husband that travel. You see what I'm saying? Like, all of those things. Can I do it? I've got a husband in sales. So if I go into sales, how does that affect my family? Your story is going to help somebody. And it's important that we get it out. We get this narrative out and that it touches those lives, because we need more African-American realtors. We need more African-American loan officers, appraisers, home inspectors, attorneys, whatever, something, title agents. We just need more in the business to kind of push the envelope forward. But yeah, it fueled something in me last night. Like, I saw it at like 10 something and I was like, wow, like, okay, that's what it's for. Like, the things that we're doing, this is what all of this is for. Essentially, it doesn't have anything to do with Kevin or Nyala. That was what I realized last night. It's got something to do with everybody after us and the people that we're going to affect, i.e. Miss Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here to share my story, because there's so many times that I feel like, I do that comparison thing that you referred to, right? I see people who are doing 40 transactions a year or 60 transactions a year, and I'm like, wow. And I have to bring myself down to say, that's great for them. For me, it's about the person that I'm helping at that moment in time. How will this affect their family? I want to be invited to the barbecues. That's when my clients look. I want to be invited to the back of your the backyard at the barbecue, and you say, "Hey, that's my realtor," But most importantly, for their families, it feels good to look at different houses or things that I might have touched. But to your point, it is bigger than us. It's unfortunate that we hear about those stories and things like the floods happen and Black Wall Street is taken away because of jealousy, from whatever aspect that is, whether it's race or just, I don't know. But I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of thought. We're here for a purpose and for a reason. And I'm glad that you're aware of it and that it hit you so it would fuel you in a different way. Because that's what that appraisal did for me. I mean, I was like, okay. So he just thinks he could he's from Peachtree City. And so there's a different perspective when you come from different places on different areas.
Right.
And little did he know Historic College Park is booming. It's money over here, So I say all this to say, I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to share my story, to have the opportunity to impact somebody across the globe, because I know this is going to be worldwide, right? And just so that we can bring that awareness to our community, that they can reach out to a professional, get the assistance that they need, and don't sit in uncertainty. I think that's the takeaway I would give from today, is that I sat in uncertainty when I first entered the industry. In hindsight, if I would have asked different questions or gone to different brokerages, I would have maybe excelled. I may have failed, who knows? But not asking, I don't know. If my mom didn't reach out to me, because she's very independent, she does stuff and she's not going to come and tell you what she does until she hits some type of hurdle. And even in some cases, she'll just push through. But the fact that she came to me, if she would have sat in uncertainty, I mean, that would have affected her on the appraisal for her home, right? I think the takeaway from this is, don't sit in the uncertainty, reach out to somebody that can help, and know that myself and Mr. Kevin Jefferson, who I like to call friend, we have conversations outside of this, can help you on that journey. So thank you, Mr. Jefferson. I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
You're a mess. Nah, thanks for sharing your story. Like I said, I think it'll help somebody, and I look forward to watching your business continue to grow the way I've seen over the last 4 years. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate you. I appreciate your time and appreciate all that you do. For people who are listening who would like to get in contact with you on social media, could you give them your social media information?
I would love to. So Nyala sells real estate. So that's NYALASELLS real estate. And that's on Instagram and Facebook. But you can also reach me on LinkedIn at Nyala Allen. Search for me. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one right now, because there is a Nyala Allen in California. She's just like years younger than me. But those are the platforms that I'm on. I guess most frequently. I do not have a Twitter. So if you see a Nyala Allen on Twitter, that is not me. And you can find me on YouTube. And you can also reach me. Oh, you asked about social media.
You can give me your phone number. Give me your phone number.
Is 470-601-7107. You can send me a text. You can call me. I look forward to helping you and anyone else you know with their next home purchase, or most importantly, they have a home to sell. We need the inventory.
We need the inventory. For sure. Well, thank you, Nyala. And you guys, thank you for listening to the Real Estate Proverbs podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson. Have a great day. If you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson. Have a great day.